collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 169 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series where I answer your questions. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, don't forget to drop your question in the comment section below. And as I say, hopefully you'll be featured. If you do happen to enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like down below and also subscribe if you are new. We have a jam-packed bumper episode of Ask Boss Bounty this week. So with all that being said, we're just going to get on with it. And we're going to go with the first question. Channel member Stephen Novak says, great work Tim, question about the Hasbro Pulse Boba Fett's throne room. Do you think or know if the Bib Fortuna figure will be carded with a VC number or be numbered like the HasLab figures? I remember Patrick explaining the policy on numbering a while ago, and I think this figure would fall into the not numbered mainline category. So this is something that not any of us really know at the moment. The only people that really know are the people at Hasbro. But I do remember asking that question on one of the Q&As, and I think Emily replied with something about they do want to, you know, have him carded. That's the first thing. She mentioned the size of the figure and what have you. In terms of the numbering, you know, I really don't know what they're going to do with that. For the collector's sake, I hope they don't number him in the main line. I hope that they do give him one of those sort of special numbers like the HasLab figures, because we don't really want that sort of situation with the Salacious, Crumb and the Mouse Droid again, really, where there's some collectors that aren't really bothered about that throne room set, and therefore, you know, completionists out there aren't going to be worrying about like a number missing in their collection. Dial 3 says, hey boss, congrats on the 25k. Thank you buddy. Question for next week, have you ever been tempted to buy any ships from the Jazzwares Micro Galaxy Squadron? I have had to use self-control to not purchase some, especially the Gauntlet Fighter. Yeah, every wave that they seem to bring out, I kind of want them more and more, but I am like you, my friend, I'm holding off on that line. I do believe that the Millennium Falcon is really, really good actually. It's got electronics and lights and, you know, sounds and things. It looks pretty awesome, but, you know, in terms of space and money, I just can't really get into it, because if I get one, then I know I'm going to want them all. So, yeah, I'm holding back, my friend. CW3 says, congratulations, here's my question. Do you feel the card backs should have different colours for their respective movie show logos, apart from the original Star Wars card backs? All the others are pretty much red. Yeah, so you're talking about the logo there. I kind of like the fact that they're all red because it sort of matches what I think Kenner would have done. I know the Rogue One logo on screen was yellow, I think it was. It didn't actually look that great on the movie, to be honest, that logo. So I'm liking what they did with the Rogue One version on the card back with, you know, the sort of Kenner style. They've done it with all of the movies since the original trilogy, and I think it's best to keep it that way. That's just my personal opinion though. Collector 1970 says, question for next week. Do you think when Hasbro ships out the Mando N-1 Starfighter, do you think they'll ship it with a re-release of the TIE Interceptor in a Mando Vintage Collection box? So I think that question is basically, do I think they're going to reissue that TIE Interceptor in a Mando box, not if they're going to ship it like a 2-pack or something. I was going to mention this on last week's video because of the TIE Interceptor's appearance in The Mandalorian. Spoiler alert, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one that they could easily do. I think it's good enough, you know, to be re-released. It was released in the Vintage Collection. It's a nice sized vehicle. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't and couldn't do that one in a Mando box. It was great seeing it back on the screen again, and I really hope they do it. It's not something that I've heard of this year for a release, and we do know that with vehicles and everything, it's a bit of a sort of touchy subject with retailers and whether they actually want to stock those sorts of things. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, I would take one all day long. Channel member Zombie Duck says, another great video today. I always enjoy these. Question for next week. Do you think we might be getting more than the traditional 4 mainline waves this year? I guess 5 if you include the wave of 4 repacks. To me, it seems like we should be getting quite a few more figures this year, but I'm not sure where they will slot in. So if we're looking at last year, we actually had 6 waves of figures if you include the repack wave, which had Mace Windu in it. We actually had 5 mainline waves last year, and that will be the same for this year. So 6 if you're going to include the Return of the Jedi, reissue wave. So the first wave obviously has got the Aldani Mission Andor and the Phase 2 clone, Admiral Piet, people like that. Then you've got the next wave, which has got Darth Vader and Han Solo, Tusken Warrior, Weequay, and then the third wave, we have Cad Bane, which I believe has the Moff Jajerod and Neemnum included in that wave. And then there's going to be 2 more waves before the end of the year. And hopefully some of those will have new media figures in them, basically. Maybe figures from Ahsoka or something. I think that will be a good timing for when that show drops. So just like they did with Obi-Wan, maybe that's going to be something that we can expect. So yeah, we're still going to be getting 5 mainline waves, and then you've got that Return of the Jedi wave on top, and who knows, there may be even another reissue wave that we don't know about, and there's going to be some exclusives all over the place. We've got the 2-pack to look forward to, so there's lots of other stuff coming as well that's going to round out the year, just as the same as last year. You know, we're having all those Boba Fetts and stuff like this guy here that I reviewed just the other day. So lots to look forward to. Quadzilla1111 says, question for next week. I'm a Mandalorian only collector, which means I have to dip back into previous films' figures due to flashback scenes, etc. The latest episode of The Mandalorian had a flashback scene which showed Phase 2 clone troopers, which are coming out on Andor card backs, so that's sorted. Do you think we'll get the shock troopers and a re-release of the New Republic gunship that was also in the flashback scene? Now this is kind of why I've set up this little sort of diorama stroke scene for this video. You've got the 501st there, which busted through the Jedi Temple, and Grogu's sitting there in his pod, and obviously we see him rescued. And then when he comes out, they get onto a BARC speeder. That particular BARC speeder had a sidecar, which you can get from a previous line, actually, from the Clone Wars era, I think. So I might have to try and get myself one of those. No doubt the price will go up. And then a bunch of shock troopers come out of the Republic gunship. Man, what a scene. I absolutely loved it. I love the clones. So for me, now they've got that Phase 2 clone body, I just want them to get on with it. And just, you know, the shock trooper there, the Vintage Collection version one, I do not have one of those loose. I only have the, what are those, Saga Collection ones now? Or I can't even remember what line they're from now, but they're the old mould, the antenna mould. Brilliant figures. But I would love for them to get that new Phase 2 clone trooper and just give us the classic, the Revenge of the Sith era looking clones, like the shock troopers, like the 501st, the 327th. They could do so many of them, man, with that new clone body, and I hope they do. I really do hope they do. Not at the expense of other things in the main line and new characters and things like that. We always need the new characters. We always need, you know, newly tooled figures. But you know, they've got those army builder boxes and stuff that they can do things with now. So come on, Hasbro, just get on with it. You know, I need an updated shock trooper. They looked absolutely awesome. In terms of the Republic gunship, I think everybody in the community is crying out for that to be released again for the people that weren't able to get that. It popping up in the Mandalorian gives it a better chance, but again, it is one of those things about retailers and vehicles and how they actually get that out to market, you know. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I absolutely love that part of the Mandalorian episode. Apologies for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet, but I would hope that most of you have. MyHip0289 says, hi Tim, question for next week. Of all your Bossk collectibles, which is your favourite? Guessing anything Bossk is a huge part of your Star Wars collecting. Cheers. Alright then, so to answer the question then about what is my favourite Bossk piece of my collection, there's what I have like in the top of my cabinet, just some random stuff. We've got Kota Bakir stuff, we've got some customs, we've got lots of different stuff going on in there, really, all different kinds of Bosks. But what is my favourite piece? It has to be the Toxic Limbs Bossk there in the middle. That's the POC Spanish Bossk, which is, you know, a really rare piece. There's not too many of those around. I do have a few mint on cards as well, but I think that's got to be my favourite piece just because of the rarity of it, really. Kukai, I think that's how you pronounce that, says, hey boss, question for next week. With the Black Series ARC Trooper Jesse up for pre-order, do you think we could get a Black Series ARC Trooper 5s, or should I look into buying a custom one? Thank you for the great episodes. So I don't 100% know too much about what's coming out for the Black Series, but I would guess that if they've done ARC Trooper Jesse, then more than likely they will do ARC Trooper 5s. They've done Echo as well, haven't they? So that's the last one to come. We got the 3-pack in the Vintage Collection. They've got that mould. Hasbro likes repainting things. It's a clone. I think it's a banker that you're going to get that one in the line. I don't think you're going to need to customize that one. Tony J says, great video as always and congrats on the 25k. Question for next week. I find myself in an interesting position with the Book of Boba Fett and Andor figures. I enjoyed Andor much more as a show, but would like a lot more of the Book of Boba Fett figures in TVC. Book of Boba Fett just had some great character designs in Cad Bane, Chrysanthemum, New Tuscans and even the Pikes. Do you have any shows or movies that you didn't care for but have a lot of wanted figures from, or vice versa? So the only thing I can really think of, and it is a sorry state of affairs really, if I'm honest, because I don't want to not like something, but at the end of the day I really don't need or want more figures from the sequel trilogy. You know, I absolutely loved Andor and I would want more figures from it, but I don't think there's too many that I'd want, if that makes sense. I think there's only a few core characters that I'd actually want from that show. I realise that I don't think they would sell that great, and I think even the most recent wave, the Andor and the Vel figure are the worst sellers. I think I've seen them on clearance somewhere. I think even Hasbro Pulse had those two, the only two figures out of that wave that they put on sale in their like warehouse sale. So that kind of tells you something, doesn't it? So, you know, yes, there is certain things that I want more of that I don't think they'll do, or, you know, in terms of, as I said with the sequel trilogy, you know, I don't really hate those films, but, you know, with all the other things coming out, I really don't need any more figures from it. I think they're just much higher priorities. For me anyway. Fergus Cherrington has a really interesting one here. He says, hi boss, epic video. Question for next week. I collect the Black Series but am tempted by the Vintage Collection. Which would you say is the best overall to collect? Well, to be honest, you know, I'm going to try and sort of take my biased hat off, because obviously I'm always going to say I think the Vintage Collection thing is the best thing to collect, because that's the thing I collect and it's the thing that I like. But I'm going to try and give you a rounded opinion on this, and I would say, you know, if you're into collecting figures, then you should be collecting the figure line. So that means, you know, you just want some figures on a shelf that look like how they look in the movie or TV show. You can pose them well, they have good articulation, all that kind of stuff. Then you should go for the Black Series. It's as simple as that. If you want something a little bit more out of your collecting, if you want to add vehicles and play sets, then the Vintage Collection is the thing for you. I don't think that they make enough vehicles anymore and beasts and play sets, but there's still a lot of stuff in that scale that you can go back to add to your collection, just like the BARC speeder here. This was featured in the most recent episode of The Mandalorian. I doubt they're going to re-release it, but at least I have it from another line and I can stick a figure on it, and it looks kind of the part. So from a world building point of view, then 3.75 inch is the way to go. The Vintage Collection is the way to go. If you just want figures on a shelf from the new media especially, not some random alien, and you like troopers, then I think, you know, the Black Series is probably the sort of way to go. But having said that, you know, I'll put my biased head back on. There is a certain charm about 3 3/4 inch figures. You know, it's the heritage scale. It's what started it all. And yeah, collect the Vintage Collection. Horror Fan says, hey my friend, another amazing video. Congrats on 25k. Question for next week. Is there a Star Wars item that Little Bossk has wanted for a long time? Mine is an AT-AT. So, yeah, I'm trying to think about what he's wanted. An Ewok Village, probably. I think that's what he's always wanted. I was looking for one the last time I was at Echo Base Live. I was looking for the vintage Ewok Village. It doesn't have to be in amazing condition or anything for my son. He just wants it to play with, to stick his Ewoks on. He's got a lot of Endor stuff. But right now, it's this Boba Fett. You know, he is trying to steal this Boba Fett off of me. And because they were like in such short supply in the UK, it was very difficult to get more than one. So I'm struggling a bit, but I'm sure I'll pick an extra one up for him at some point. Channel member Reckless Deck says, hi Tim, I'm going to try this question again. Do you think we'll ever get the cyber alien creature and all of his Russian nesting doll abilities and accessories in TVC? Also, what about the Surface of Mandalore playset? I can't decide if I'd rather have the Steps of the Living Waters themselves, very Lord of the Rings, or just a length of the cavern tunnels and a back wall, with all of that post-apocalyptic wreckage and spikes of green glass sticking up, plus maybe also an alien sewer crocodile. Reckless Deck Buddy, you have got a great imagination, I've got to say, in terms of the things that you want, because all the things that you've described there I think would be pretty cool. Whether they're going to be something that Hasbro would do, I'm not too sure about that, buddy. The cyber alien thing, I don't think it was featured enough for it to be included. I could see Lego doing it, and they probably already have. But in terms of those playsets that you've mentioned, I just think there's going to be other play sets that they would do that would allow for more figures to interact with it. I think with that you've got the Mando and Bo-Katan basically. I just don't think it's enough for them to warrant doing it. However, I'm sure customizers might do it. People that do 3D printing and things like that might be able to come up with something pretty good. Jason Smith says, hi BB, congratulations on the big 25,000. Question for next week, do you think we might get a Book of Boba Fett Rancor using a scaled down HasLab sculpt? Keep up the good work. I don't think so, buddy. I think if they were ever to do the Rancor again, they would probably just re-release the Legacy Collection version one, which also got released in the 3.75 inch Black series. It lacks a little bit of articulation, but I'm pretty sure that's the one they would use in terms of a 3.75 inch Rancor. At the end of the day, it is a pretty good one. I don't own one myself, and if you look at the secondary market prices of that one, they have shot up as well. So potentially due a re-release. SW Nerd 23 says, hey Bossk, here's a question for next week. Do you think we'll see more Book of Boba Fett alien characters in TVC like Major Domo, the Pike Soldier, and the Mayor? I've got to say, probably not at this stage. I think, you know, as always, we kind of struggle just to get the main characters from these shows. The Mayor especially is one that I feel that they could do when they do Hammerhead. So that's like a figure that they make two uses out of, basically that sculpt, hopefully. Although the Mayor does have that sort of weird contraption on his head so you can hear him speaking English and things like that. So I don't know, man. I mean, those things I would love. They would be great. And I've seen some great customs recently. I think there's a guy on Instagram called, oh God, I'm going to forget now, but it's something Jedi. I'll try and put something up on the screen now so you can see what he's called. But he's done some awesome customs of those figures. So, but yeah, whether Hasbro will do them, I don't know, man. It's not looking good for that sort of thing. So I had a quick look at what's been released in the vintage collection. I don't really necessarily think there's been a decrease. I just don't think that we've really ever had that many Astromech droids in the vintage collection line. We've had R2-D2 in TVC 1.0 with the bar equipment on him. We've had R5-D4, and then the TVC 2.0 we've had R2-D2, and then we had Astromech Droid. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting any. I probably am. The Power Droid, he's not Astromech, so but yeah. In terms of droids, I would love them to do more droids. I think we can see a couple this year, though, if I'm honest. If we look at, you know, I've said it before, R5-D4, that one's a must. If we're going to be getting the N-1 Starfighter, they've got to re-release the R5-D4 on a Mando card. They've just got to do it. This is the year to do it. And then, you know, there may be some other Astromech droids from other shows that hopefully we will get. We'll have to wait and see. Rob Ernest says, great episodes always, BB, and congrats on the 25k subs. Question for next week. In your opinion, why doesn't Hasbro re-release vehicles from other lines into TVC? Clone Wars vehicles like the Juggernaut, the AT-TE, or even just the BARC seem TVC worthy. They could also repaint the Episode 8 A-Wing for the Return of the Jedi 40th Anniversary and an X-Wing to make as a partisan X-Wing and slap a TVC label box art on them all. It seems like this would be easy money for Hasbro since there would be no budget cost for new tooling, and even at an inflated retail price it would be cheaper for collectors than trying to acquire vehicles from previous lines on the secondary market. Thoughts? Keep up the awesome content. So yeah, this is what I was saying about the BARC speeder. I mean, that Clone Wars boxed one that you get Obi-Wan in, that one has the sidecar. So if anyone's looking at recreating that scene from the most recent Mandalorian episode, then that's the one you're going to have to get. I'm not too sure if the paint scheme's the same because it is like white and blue rather than the red. I haven't watched the episode again, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They should be, you know, but then what I think about this is like the Juggernaut and the AT-TE. How much would they be in today's prices? You know, are they going to be able to do the turbo tank for whatever it was before, $99 or something? They're just not going to be able to do it, man. It scares me to think how much something like that would be. Awesome vehicle. You're right about the X-Wing, though. I would like them to do the Partisan X-Wing. That would be the Luke Skywalker X-Wing, repainted in the Partisan colours. That would look flipping awesome. I would definitely take one of those, that is for sure. Vehicles from other lines, you're absolutely right. Doesn't really cost them anything in terms of tooling budget. But man, you know, just think how much they would charge for these things. That's the problem. And then you've got the retail factor as well. Are these big retailers that they rely on prepared to give the, you know, the shelf space for these vehicles? And at the moment, I just don't think they are. And maybe they would have to be like a Pulse exclusive or something for them to get them out. we'll have to wait and see what happens. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I just want to say that I have not forgotten about the giveaway video. That video will be coming out early next week. I just haven't had a chance to do it with loads of other stuff going on, so I do apologise for that, but don't worry, the giveaway video will be coming up soon on the channel, so subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss that video. It'll be early next week. I just want to say a big thank you all for watching, and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members for supporting the channel and me in the way that you do. It allows me to make more and better videos, so thank you so much. Alright then guys, thanks for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.